Meanwhile, in another New York City suburb, the primary to decide who will face Republican Congressman Nick LaLota in November also being held today. The seat has been held by a Republican for more than a decade, but Democrats believe now whoever wins today's primary has a good chance to flip that seat. And one of the Democrats in the race for New York's first U.S. congressional district, John Avlon, joins us now. John, good morning. Happy Election Day to you.
Morning, guys.
What's the closing argument here as voters head to the polls in your district?
Closing argument is we need to win now. It's been a decade since Democrats have controlled this swing district. And we've got the momentum going into Election Day, the enthusiasm, the energy, and an unprecedented amount of endorsements. 6 out of 8 Democratic town committees, local, Democratic leaders like Tom Suozzi, assemblymen, county legislators. My opponent's own union has endorsed me in the primary because they all know that we can't afford to lose this fight, that I'm the Democrat who can win the general election. And my opponent ran 4 years ago and lost by 10 points. And when you lose by 10, you can't do it again.
So, John, good morning. Certainly, as just discussed, all politics is local, but we also know that national races do influence what's happening there. Give us your assessment as to how the presidential campaign, which comes, has a major inflection point this week with the debate. How are voters out there thinking about Trump and Biden, and how does that influence the race you're seeing?
First, I think most folks are concerned about issues closer to home. Affordability, abortion rights, national issue that people really feel the pain for. We need to defend abortion rights and reproductive freedom. But the national presidential race mostly is reflected in a concern about defending our democracy. And one thing that will work here in New York 1 on Long Island that I think can resonate, because this is how you win a swing district, is the idea that now is the time we need to form a broad patriotic coalition to defend our democracy. You need what's left of the sane right, the center, and the left to come together. And so it's not just about the top of the ticket, but this is a patriotic effort. We need to take back the flag. We need to defend American democracy and just basic values that used to be above, debate, like, peaceful transfer of power and presidents shouldn't be able to do whatever they want. We'll see what happens in that case. So that's a lot of the backdrop of this race. And I think that's a huge opportunity for winning swing districts and pulling together our country on the other side of Trumpism.
John, this is going to be one of the seats that could decide the composition of the House of Representatives next year and the year after. How important is it nationally that this seat stay or go to a Democrat and that it be flipped?
At least it's huge, right? This is a majority maker district. If we win here, if we take out the first-term Republican Nick LaLota, who's a Trumper, celebrated the overturning of Roe, far too far right for the district, that's how Hakeem Jeffries becomes Speaker. And so the stakes really couldn't be higher. And for a long time, this district, people thought it was fading away, but that's just generals fighting the last war. Tom Suozzi showed us that candidate quality matters, that playing offense on the issues people care about matters, including immigration and crime, and seizing the center matters. And the other issue that I keep hearing about is the importance of rebuilding the middle class and strengthening the middle class. So I don't think you can overestimate the importance of putting this district in play, putting Republicans on defense in terms of creating pathways to create a Democratic majority so we can defend abortion rights, so we can deal with affordability, restore state and local tax deductions, expand the child tax credit, and rebuild the middle class. Those are all key local issues, but we got to win here first.
John, you've told me that you've been knocking on doors, been putting yard signs out, shaking a ton of hands. I'm curious, as you do that, and I always found that was far more effective than ever taking a poll. I never saw the need to take polls because you knock on enough doors, you know what people are thinking. With all the doors you've knocked on, what do you keep hearing? What's the one issue that keeps coming up?
Affordability. Affordability by far. And you're right. It's the act of listening in the context of a campaign, listening to people, not talking, that you learn the most. That should be obvious, but it's not to I think, many politicians. But it's affordability. People are frustrated about prices at the grocery store. They understand increasingly that there might be some greedflation, some price gouging going on. But behind that is the cost of housing. It's the middle class feeling squeezed, that their kids can't move back here, that they're stuck in their homes with high interest rates. So that's really the backdrop. And I think this is something that we can't overestimate. In the course of this campaign, Joe, it's become crystal clear to me that it's not an accident. It's not a coincidence that we've seen the middle of our politics hollowed out at the same time we've seen the middle of our economy hollowed out. And so everything, I think, needs to be put through that prism of how we rebuild the middle class and to deal with affordability first.
All right, Democratic candidate for New York's first U.S. congressional district, John Avlon, thank you so much.
Thank you, Joe. Be well, guys.
All right. Good luck. And Jim Messina, I asked the question about knocking on doors and what he heard from people because, as I've always said, you don't have to knock on 1,000 doors to figure out what's on people's mind. You knock on enough, you're going to be hearing pretty quickly what's on their mind. And so I'm not surprised at all that he heard about affordability, because I know that's what you hear about. So, you know, a lot of times when people talk about groceries or gas, but man, housing prices right now, there's a real housing crisis, especially for younger Americans. How do Democrats on the campaign trail, how does Joe Biden handle that challenge?
Well, I think John has it exactly right. Part of it is listening and empathizing. Joe Biden is the great empathizer in chief. His ad he has out this morning that shows him hugging folks, talking about, you know, these issues and understanding that people out there are hurting and where there's more we have to do. We made some good progress with insulin caps, with some other things, but there's more we got to do. And laying out a very clear plan, Joe, that says to people, your life's going to get better and here's why. And that's what they're hearing on the doors. You and I do love a nice door knocking, and I was knocking on doors recently for Jon Tester in my home state of Montana, and people out there want to know where these people are going to take them and what they're going to do to make their lives a little bit easier.
CEO of the Messina Group, Jim Messina, who also ran President Obama's 2012 re-election campaign successfully. Jim, thanks so much. We appreciate it.
Hey there, MSNBC fans. I'm Luke Russert, and be sure to join me, Rachel Maddow, Jen Psaki, Lawrence O'Donnell, Steve Kornacki, Joy Reid, and many more September 7th in Brooklyn, MSNBC Live Democracy 2024. Click on the link for ticket information. We will see you there.